Hi everyone, this is Travis. I'm just making a video of my Capstone project for the class. Let's see, for my Capstone project I made a website that lets you search movies, and then it shows you basically pretty much any movie you search for. It'll show you an image of that movie's poster, it'll show you details, and a few other little pieces of information. I built my Capstone using Vue and Vue Bootstrap, and of course Axios, and then the OMDB API. And the OMDB API is basically a supplement for the IMDb database, because IMDb doesn't actually have an API for this use. But OMDB is an open source API that just requires you to get a free key, and then you have access to a massive amount of information about pretty much every movie ever made. And it lets you, pull high quality posters and information and all that good stuff. So this is the app that I ended up making. As you can see here, it's just search for a movie. You can probably tell that it uses some Bootstrap elements. The Jumbotrons here are Bootstrap. The font formatting is pretty indicative of Bootstrap. And then sort of look here and just say search for a phrase. Then do a movie title, maybe like The Hobbit, and that just jumps to the feature view. And so the first view is the home view, and that's just where you put in a search. Then for the feature view, you're presented with this page here. And this is just going to show you the movie title gets displayed up here at the top. And then we just sort of keep crediting the OMDB API in the Jumbotron up top. And that's, again, a Bootstrap element that's enabled in Vue through the Bootstrap Vue framework. And then plot is displayed at the top here. And so that plot element is, again, provided by the OMDB API, as is all the information. Then we have a nice poster here, sort of a neat old poster. And there's a little bit of styling around the poster, just rounded edges, slightly rounded edges, and I tried to match, for most of these elements, I tried to match the styling that you see in the Bootstrap Vue Jumbotron display, and that's actually just sort of how Bootstrap displays that stuff. They're just replicating that. I like the colors, maybe BG Basic 2 or something like that. So I tried to round the corners the same way, just for some uniformity there. And so this poster is pulled from the API, and the movie details are pulled from the API. And there's other pieces of information that I could have pulled from the API too, I just didn't include them. But this is essentially what my project looks like. Take a look at a few other movies. Let's see, go back here, maybe look at Blade Runner. Looks good. So we got Blade Runner. The plot will change here. The title up here. The movie changes. The plot changes. The poster changes. And that's another neat old poster. And then, of course, the movie details change. There we go. And then just for fun, the first Lord of the Rings is in here. Display's pretty good. I guess I could probably find a way to, well, that's pretty good. But yeah, same thing. And then in terms of mobility or mobile first, it works pretty well. If you go to inspect and shrink the page, the home page functions properly on all screen sizes. If you go to the feature page, it works almost perfectly. Not quite, though. There is one screen size right here where you get that nasty overlap, and I haven't quite been able to resolve that yet. But it does disappear when you shrink the page a little bit more. So there that goes, yeah. And then it actually looks really good on smaller screens. So I haven't quite been able to fix that between right around that pixel size, but I'll get there. But yeah, and then I do have just an alt description for the posters. It just says, you know, picture of the movie poster, and that carries over from the view code. And that is the functioning part of my project right now. I wonder what else we should look at. We should look at, I've got a README up, and the interesting part of the README is probably just this section here. And it just reviews that it's developed using Bootstrap View. And Bootstrap View is pretty neat because it lets you utilize features of Bootstrap while developing on the Vue framework. That is really neat because there's a lot of fun stuff that Bootstrap lets you do that makes your job a lot easier. That it's fun to be able to use in Bootstrap or use in Vue. And I did try to replicate in some areas. Well, I think I already pointed that out. Oh yeah, there's a safety feature there, so if you don't put something there, you get a warning. That's neat, but like these aren't actually Bootstrap elements, but I tried to replicate the style on these of the actual Jumbotron, so that matches. And I mentioned that here, that I replicate that styling. And then, of course, I use Axios to make the API call, and I installed that with NPM. And, yeah, used OMDB, and then it's just deployed on GitHub. And then I also used the framework that Becky suggested for the Google Analytics, the NPM Google Analytics, and I actually have that up here. It's Vue Analytics, and this worked really good. I actually just installed it today, so I haven't had a chance to actually see any traffic on here yet. But the install went really easily. Just npm install and all that. And then just click the first link, it explains it. Wonder if there's anything else I should look at. Yep, Bootstrap Vue. Oh, this is the framework, and so basically you just have to have npm running, and then you have to have Vue installed, and then you put Bootstrap Vue on top of that, and then you've got Bootstrap Vue running on your development platform. And I used Visual Studio Code, and I think pretty much all of us did. And that took me a while to get running. There were multiple ways to mess it up, and then of course I had to have it deploying to docs, and I needed some help doing that. But got that working with some help, and Bootstrap Vue is really neat. I would like to keep working with that, actually. I think that's a really, really fun tool. That's just the screen capture. And then we could also look at the code a little bit. And so this is just the main. There's a little bit about setting up the Bootstrap in here, but that's all covered on the Bootstrap Vue page if you want to do that. Then it's just the router. I don't think there's anything really interesting in here. There isn't. But these are the two. Oh, actually, I should mention I have, I wanted to make it so you could search for a movie title and then get multiple search results. And I actually had a prototype page for that. And I had sort of the styling in place. It was like the styling isn't actually Vue appropriate, but it's a sort of a live wireframe kind of thing. Just to see what it would look like, but I never actually built that in a functional way. I might do that later though, because I think now that I've got the API calls working, it might work. But you can see sort of what the actual Bootstrap elements that I might have used would have been something like this. Just these card elements here. It's probably what I would have used if I had done multiple search results. And then we'll look at the actual API call to OMDB in a minute. But yeah, here's the home page. And the home page this is neat. You can see where I'm using a Bootstrap element in Vue, because Bootstrap Vue lets you do that. Then just search for a movie, information, blah, blah, blah. Here's the form. If there isn't anything in there, that's where the warning says, hey, you have to put something in here. Submit button, another Jumbotron, Vue stuff. This is the router push Becky showed me how to use. And I guess that pushes the search phrase to the router so it can be retrieved on the feature page, or it could also be retrieved on the search view if I got that working, if I get that working. And that actually, yeah. And I think I did the Google Analytics thing properly here. I haven't seen any traffic yet, so I'm not sure, but I'll keep an eye on that. And then the feature view is a little more interesting. It still uses Bootstrap, but if you look up here, you'll see there's the integrating the title from the actual. Actually, we'll sort of do it in order, I guess. So down here, down here it's just pulling from the router push. It's pulling the information from the API call. So here's the API call, and there's the API key. And this is just the parameter for a single title search. Then up here is just integrating that information. So here's the title of the movie that the search query produces, and it's displayed in Jumbotron. I wonder why I did that way. I didn't realize I was repeating information kindly provided by OMDB twice. And then it displays the plot down here. And then it uses the rows and column systems to display the movie poster and the movie details. And this display is pretty good, as we saw. There's just sort of a very narrow width where it doesn't display properly, but otherwise it shows up well on mobile devices. Then there's just another Jumbotron, and then, yep, that's the Axios, another Google Analytics call. And, oh, yeah, there's styling. There's styling on both the home and the view, and the styling is pretty self-explanatory. This is just where I'm replicating some Bootstrap appearances. This is just where I was trying to do the mobile-first thing to resolve that that overlap of elements, because that's the only place I'm getting it on the feature view. And then there's some styling at the bottom of here too, but there isn't too much. It's just on the input and the button elements. Okay, and I'm not sure there's anything else. I think that's it. I've really enjoyed going to school with all of you, and I wish everyone well.